I do not believe that Brett Kavanaugh will overturn.
Precedents are overturned all the time.
They aren't overturned all the time. And listen to the standards that he put forth in his conversation with me, and also in the hearing. He says for a precedent, a long-established precedent like Roe, to be overturned, it would have to have been grievously wrong and deeply inconsistent.
That was Republican Senator Susan Collins, the 50th and deciding vote in the 2018 confirmation hearings of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. At the time, Collins assured the American public, and specifically American women, that she was confident Brett Kavanaugh would respect precedent and leave Roe v. Wade alone. But fast forward to this week, and Politico's reporting on the Supreme Court's draft opinion on its upcoming decision on abortion, Collins expressed his dismay, saying, quote, "It would be completely inconsistent with what Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh said in their hearings and in our meetings in my office." NBC News has not obtained the draft opinion, and it doesn't reflect the court's final decision on abortions, but it holds it would almost immediately open the almost immediately open the floodgates to state legislation banning abortions. In fact, according to the Guttmacher Institute, which supports abortion rights, 13 states, all controlled by Republicans, surprise, surprise, have so-called trigger bans in place that would go into effect if Roe is repealed. Joining me now to discuss, Republican strategist and MSNBC political analyst, and my friend Susan Del Percio. So, trigger laws, help us understand them, because they are going to be something everybody is going to become familiar with very soon.
Well, basically, Zerlina, we saw in blue states codify their state legislatures codifying their abortion rights laws, like in New York a couple of years ago. And we've seen red states basically come out with anti-abortion laws that, should Roe v. Wade be overturned, should a federal mandate not be there to protect a woman's right to choose, these laws would automatically go into effect, because basically, and you have a better background in the law than I do, but basically the Supreme Court says it's up to you states, go ahead.
Do you feel like Republicans, I mean, this has been building for really my whole lifetime. The moment Roe was decided, the anti-choice movement has been working to either block all of the access through trap laws, and now they've gone straight at Roe to try to gut it and take away the right completely. Are they celebrating today? I feel like we've been focusing today on the people who are angry and upset, but obviously these trigger laws represent folks who would be happy on a day like today.
There are those who will be celebrating, who have dedicated their lives to overturning Roe v. Wade. There's no question about it. But even some of the staunchest, most pro-life people do have a problem with rape, incest, life of the mother. And what the court's decision, draft decision, basically would allow are states to ban abortion even in those cases. So I think this is going further than what most Republicans and a lot of pro-life advocates even wanted to see, because I think this is going to drive out voters in droves, Zerlina. We've talked about this before. What can change the dynamics of the 2022 midterms? This may be one, because let's not forget, half of the citizens of this country will have a right taken away from them. The Supreme Court has never done that. It has never taken away your right. Now, not every woman chooses to have an abortion. That is true. But the fundamental right is my body, my choice. And I think that's a message that needs to hit home. And if we look back at 2020, it was all about those suburban women. And I do not think they'll take kindly to this law being overturned.
So one of the things I've been thinking all day long is, the anti-choice movement certainly has had a hard time coming up with a message to galvanize people and get them into the streets and really engage on this specific issue. One of the things people are saying today, which is true, but maybe not the strongest place to be, is that this is going to harm women because women will die. Women will seek out abortion, but it won't be safe and women will die. And I feel like 2 years into the pandemic, people dying actually is not. It doesn't feel like the argument that's going to galvanize the American public, the majority of which support Roe. What do you think about a conversation about, we're going to be talking to Orrin Jacobson from Men for Choice in a moment. What do you think about a conversation that engages men? You can't live the life that you want to live without access to reproductive freedom, men. And also the idea that criminalizing abortion will jail people for miscarriages, potentially. I mean, should we talk about it in those terms as opposed to the way we've traditionally discussed it?
Absolutely. Men are a central part of this argument because let's not forget there's a lot of women who choose to have an abortion who are married, who have made family decisions, who may not be married but have made a decision what's best for their family at this current time. So absolutely, men must be part of this conversation. There's no doubt about that. But I think we just need to drive home the fact that a right is being taken away, Zerlina. It's so disturbing to me as an American to see the Supreme Court deciding to take away a right. That's what the Supreme Court does, is expand our rights, not take them away.
Susan Del Percer, it's always great to have you. And on a day like today, I wanted to talk to someone who may have different views from me, but we can all respect each other's opinions and agree that people deserve human dignity at the end of the day. Please stay safe. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.